Good morning, 97.1. We are on the eve of NHL free agency, and we are coming off of a weekend where the Red Wings made their draft picks and made a trade. Good time to check in. Got open lines, 248-539-9797. The John Gibson trade is being praised. The Red Wings upgraded in net. Now, how much of an upgrade, I think, is open to interpretation. John Gibson was a terrible goalie in 2023 and in 2024. Bounced back last year in 29 games. And all the metrics suggest it was a really good season. It's only 29 games. How big of an upgrade? Well, he's better than Mrazek, a goalie they never should have had in the first place. Overall, I felt like it was a justifiable trade. There's some upside there. He's expensive, 7th highest paid goalie in hockey, but I could justify it. I just am not going to do cartwheels. It felt very lukewarm, which was just kind of my feeling so far from the Red Wings' start to the offseason. They kept the 13th pick when a division rival who's lapped them in a rebuild was willing to trade 2 firsts to go out and get a proven blue liner in Noah Dobson and then ink him to a deal less than $10 million, which felt like a win. So now I got to go, well, what's Yzerman going to do? We had a goalie. Great. Well, he wasn't very good in Anaheim because Anaheim wasn't very good. Well, are we very good? See, that's the thing. You got to upgrade your blue line. Free agency starts tomorrow, and, well, John, the least encouraging thing possible was said by Steve Yzerman. He said, I'm not that optimistic, to be honest with you. There are more teams than there are players for what we're looking for. Already kind of laying out, guys, don't get your hopes up. We're not going to be able to add big players in free agency. And he backed it up by saying, we're not buying anybody out to create a little extra space for free agency. That is a lukewarm start, John.
Yes, it's frustrating. And I'm left with thinking the possibility is maybe it's a smokescreen. Maybe they're going after Ekblad.
I hope so.
But that's not realistic. Like, that's not what he has done. He's not been one to mince words. He's been very much like Brad Holmes, where he says it, and then when it's all said and done, you're like, oh, wait, he was telling us the truth. There wasn't a smokescreen.
They're alike in this way. We don't have to like what they say, but they are pretty transparent.
Right. And so, I mean, there are other guys out there, and I'm frustrated because, okay, it's an upgraded goalie. What does that mean? Do they go from 86 points last year to 89 this year? Does that get them in the playoffs? What does it even do for this team? Because it's still the same defense in front of them.
Right. You can't say on one hand, you have to ignore 23 and 24 for Gibson, back-to-back awful, atrocious seasons. We have to throw them away because the team in front of him wasn't very good. Guys, what do you think we are?
So when he says that the amount of teams outnumber the amount of free agents, that's what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
That they're interested in. Well, of course. It happens every I mean, seriously, it's every offseason in every sport.
Yeah, there's not like 40 high-impact players in free agency ever in any sport.
Can you get one of them once? Get one of the free. Can you be the winner?
Well, no.
Why?
We're not close enough to a cup. Like, this is this ass-backwards logic, and then we don't have the deadline because we're not close enough to a cup. Well, at some point, you got to add the impact guys, and you may have to pay a little more than you want to. You may have to take a risk. You may have to be willing to lose a trade. Oh, no, we may have given up too much for Dobson. You have to be willing to lose a free agent. What if that 6th or 7th year ages poorly? Well, the alternative is also a risk, that you never make the playoffs and get fired.
Is there any remorse to like deals like Kopp to not doing that? I mean, it doesn't always work out.
Maybe.
Like we endorsed last week Ekblad overpay.
Yeah, I mean, within reason. I mean, they have roughly $20 million in cap space and more if they'd actually use the buyouts.
It's just so frustrating. It's like, I don't know. And then with the buyout, it's like, I don't know how Jacob Hall plays hockey next year here. It's 1 year. It's
Jacob or Justin.
Or Justin, I mean. I just don't get it.
I know.
And the fact that Tarasenko's going to be back.
Yeah, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way, too, that these like Yzerbots were running to use the like laser beam memes over the weekend because of the Gibson trade. It's a fine enough move, but it's like the forest through the trees here, people. They're not willing to make the draft day trade. They're not willing to be big spenders in free agency. Yes, they made I'll say it because it's going to get misconstrued. An upgrade in goal. I'm fine with Gibson being here. There's upside if you look last year to suggest rolling the dice. But it being treated as anything other than that is people clamoring to support Steve Yzerman when he doesn't deserve it.
And, well, at least those people, they've been consistent for many months now, probably dating back to when Lalone was fired. There are a group of Red Wing fans that believe goaltending was strictly the problem, and this team would have been in the playoffs with better goaltending. I don't agree with that. I think they've got certainly some other flaws while you mature your young guys that they could address.
Look, would a goalie have helped them last year? Yeah, we talked about Binnington, remember? Mm-hmm. And Yzerman was looking at Gibson before he got injured. And it may have helped steal a third period, right? Nobody was making a game-winning save late in the season for the Red Wings. I don't dispute the need in net. But if the thought here is, well, he's going to be good because of the team in front of him, that part is unfinished business. So as a Red Wing fan, how are you feeling? I use the pasta salad, potato salad, out in the summer barbecue analogy, kind of a lukewarm. Yeah, there's a little heat, at Gibson, but it's not enough to make that edible.
Well, and there's just different landmarks, and a lot of them are coming rapidly right now. Obviously, free agency starting tomorrow. It was, are they going to trade that 13th overall pick for something better? And it didn't happen. And, okay, that's fine. But now when you don't trade that, and there are teams in your own conference that are improving, Montreal Canadiens, then you have to look towards free agency. And if those guys that have re-signed, restricted free agent, or guys that are just sticking with their team, you got to look and say, who's still available? Ekblad, probably going to become available.
Ekblad, big physical blue liner. Going to take a big deal to get him, but we've got cash to spend.
LA's Gavrikov.
Another name that Red Wing fans have been floating out there since before the season ended. Sure, the Rangers are a team that appears to be linked to him. Mm-hmm. Win the bidding war. Pay more money. That's how free agency works.
Pavarov out of Columbus.
Yeah, Provorov. Yeah, I know you're talking. Yeah. He's got sandpaper in his game.
So there are options, and it doesn't have to be a high-priced option. But there are guys that, instead of spending 9.5 or 10 or 11 a year on somebody to make you better on defense, you can go $5 to $8 million a year and get better defensively.
Another name that hockey insiders have linked to the Red Wings is Keandre Miller, defenseman with the Rangers. They're doing a lot of pieces in, pieces out. Mm-hmm. Reportedly, they have an offer out on the table. Well, offer's not good enough to get the deal done right now. You have to give up a little more. You might have to be willing to lose a trade, take a little risk. If they end up with an Ekblad and a Miller and a Gibson, and I go, boy, that was a clear emphasis. We're going to get better on our own end because that's what wins late in the season and into the postseason. Guys, we're all invested in this hockey team. We want to see them take a step forward, but we have to see that they're invested in doing it.
And there's a number of different ways. What we've seen him do is pretty much go the only way, and that is the draft and develop. And I'm sorry, but the guys that you drafted this year probably aren't going to be around until 29 or 30.
I don't know when Fozzie Bear finally makes his appearance on the ice. I don't really know. I mean,
that's the nickname you're giving him?
I don't know. We drafted Carter Bear, and you're lying if you know who this guy was.
Fozzie Bear. You're such a dork.
Unless you're like a hockey nerd or a dork, you didn't know who he was. Sure, I could read up on him and go 40 goals. Little scoring edge, compete level, fine, sure. But the reality is it's
29
years away from being here. You feel like he's drafted well. I think we can all say we feel like Yzerman has drafted reasonably well.
For where he's been drafting, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a little glut of guys that we like. I'm talking Sider and Raymond, who have already been extended, by the way, so clock's ticking on trying to win with them. But also guys like Casper really emerged last season. Simon Edvinsson, I think, is a real nice piece for this hockey team. They've got some dudes that he's drafted that appear to be pretty good. So do you believe you've drafted guys that you're willing to win with, or are we still waiting? Are we still in a rebuild? Mm-hmm. I mean, that is a fundamental question for Steve Yzerman. Are we still in a rebuild? Haven't made the playoffs. He treats the trade deadline very much like they are still in a rebuild. He treated the draft like a rebuild. If he's not willing to outbid free agents, like premium high-end guys, not the Cops and Confers, if he's not willing to get into the big race for the big free agents, he probably says, well, we're not there yet. We're still in a rebuild. Is that possible?
But how do you get there?
Well, the disconnect when reporters ask, like, what do you think of the playoffs? I hope so. Like, is that not the Steve Yzerman is very much operating like they are still in the middle of the rebuild.
And I know we haven't got a lot of feedback this morning, but I got to believe Red Wings fans are happy that the goaltending should improve.
Mm-hmm.
But what about everybody else? What about trying to get to the playoffs so that maybe next year, when the free agent market is reportedly going to be better,
unless they all sign with their current teams,
right? And then you could dabble in it next year. But what's wrong with trying to make the playoffs this year? This is going to be 10 years since the last time they were in the playoffs. This is year 100, and I know that it shouldn't play a part of it, but it does.
It matters for how fans feel.
This is an original six.
Yeah.
You shouldn't go a decade without a playoffs appearance.
You're going to slap that 100-year logo on the ice, maybe even with the words Hockey Town on it, and have this lukewarm offseason? I'm not saying Yzerman needs to placate any of us, but as an organization and the way they're viewed by this fan base, this is going to get unhealthy. This is going to get nasty.
Yeah.
248-539-9797. We got open lines. It's 97.1.